My name's Liz McLaughlin, and we're here in my house this afternoon because I'm so happy about you guys doing this campaign to end stigma and break the silence. It's long overdue, that's for sure, and mostly important to me because I lost my son to suicide, Alex, who was a student at Acadia. He died in 10 days. It will be 2 years since he died at Acadia. He was 23. He was one exam away from graduating with his business degree, and we thought everything was fine with him. He had been home for a week studying for exams, went back to write his last exam, and today he went back to Oakville on the bus. He died by suicide. There had been no indication at all that he was suffering in any way. I mean, he had his little difficulties that everybody has and worries about things to come and that sort of thing, but nothing that was alarming, that's for sure. And when he went back to Acadia, it was all with every expectation that he would be graduating in a week's time, and we would all be there celebrating with him. I think the big thing for me is that I don't believe that Alex knew that he was depressed, and really the only way that we know his story is a retrospective one by putting together what we know and the people that we talked to afterwards and the words that he left for us, by putting all those things together. He talked about being sad and being overwhelmed and feeling not good enough and not worthy, and those are all symptoms of depression, but in his mind I don't think that he put it all together. I'm a social worker by profession, and I actually work in the big emergency department in Halifax, and my job is basically dealing with people in crisis. So, you know, this is the kind of thing that I should have been aware of in my mind. I think I should have been aware of. I should have realized that he was in crisis. And that's been one of the most difficult things for me, is to have had the tools to help and not have been given the opportunity to help. And I go over and over in my mind what I should have done, what I could have done, what I didn't do, you know, over and over and over. And it's like an endless record that just won't quit in my brain. Alex was one of 5 children. He had 3 brothers and a twin sister. They're extremely close group of brothers and sisters. They have always been close. There were very few fights between them growing up that I can remember. Maybe some when I wasn't home, I don't know, but it was always my pride and my joy to be a mother and to be their mother, each one of them for their own unique ways. The fact that Alex and Julie were twins was a particular source of pride for me. I guess it kind of was a special kind of motherhood, and one that now I feel like, am I still a mother of twins? You know? So when I hear other people speak about their twins, it was always an introduction into a conversation with somebody that I had twins and that I had survived twin babies and that kind of thing. Alex was a phenomenal kid. He was handsome, 6'4" and blonde and gorgeous, and he was an athlete, natural athlete at everything he tried. He was the male athlete of the year from his high school. He was recruited to play basketball at Acadia, and he was so happy going to Acadia, and he was so happy in the years that the first couple of years that he was at Acadia while he was playing basketball. He started in his second year and he was recruited to play basketball at Acadia, and his first couple of years at Acadia were really happy. He started in his second year and was a major contributor on the team. By Christmas time, he told us that he was going to quit the team, and I think that really that was the beginning of a downhill slide for Alex. And we became very aware of all the pressures on athletes, and from talking to his friends and his teammates, we became, and Mark, my older son, from what he experienced, and I think that it sort of opened us to realize that there was a big need here with athletes who are sort of coached to be tough physically, and that their mental health needs are never addressed. Because of that, that mentality that you have to push yourself and you have to play through pain, and you have to, and that you have to just work through it, and you have to leave your emotions behind and just play the game, and that's not life, right? And we've always said that if you have a broken ankle, your coach sends you to physio, you're given time off, you're not expected to practice, but if you say that you're sad, or you're not sleeping, or you're feeling overwhelmed, then you're just supposed to suck that up and get back on the court again. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in young people, and I should have talked about it, and that's part of what goes through my mind and makes me guilty, because I didn't. I thought my kids were okay, and I talked to them about everything else. I talked about drinking and driving, and about drugs, and about safe sex, and about alcohol poisoning, because those are all the things that I see at work, all these tragedies that befall young people, and suicide was certainly something that I saw a lot of, and yet somehow in my mind I thought my kids were exempt from that. They'd never given me any reason to believe that they had any mental health issues, and I figured that they would be in a car crash easier than I would have ever expected that suicide would be the topic at our dinner table, I guess. So I feel really badly about that, and we sure talk about it now, that's for sure. But it's one of those regrets, and if I had a do-over, that would be the one, that's for sure. It feels like I really dropped the ball on that one. And I should have known better of anybody. I should have known better. So that's what I live with, that regret that I didn't do that. Alex obviously thought that he was solving his problems by doing this, and all he did was pass his burdens onto our already broken shoulders to carry for him, and it never goes away. The burden is there, morning, noon, and night, and it never leaves. My heart is broken. I feel broken. I feel regret. I feel dismay. I feel cheated out of his future. And I feel that depression took that. That it was the depression that made him make those decisions. It wasn't Alex. It wasn't the Alex that we knew in our family. It was twisted kind of a thinking that goes along with depression.
So I guess he kind of just felt obviously hopeless, and
and I think anything could have interrupted that. A phone call, somebody coming to the door. Anything could have interrupted that thinking in that moment, and it's just bad luck, bad timing. That it didn't, and that's the part that is hard to live with. Getting that phone call is like nothing that I could ever explain to anybody, what it does to you as a mother, as a brother, as a sister, as a father, as it's just something that it shouldn't ever happen, because my little mantra always has been that depression is treatable, anxiety is treatable, OCD is treatable, bipolar is treatable, or suicide is forever. And it can't ever be an answer, because it's it just creates a whole new level of problems. I dealt with the feeling of suicide in my own head over and over and over again. And it wasn't that I thought that suicide was a good thing, because I didn't. I realized what it would do. If I did it to myself, I realized what would happen to the rest of my children. I was very aware of that. But the pain in my heart was so huge that it felt like I couldn't bear it. I couldn't live with that level of hurt, and it just couldn't, no matter what I did, it didn't go away. And so I made a pact with my doctor that if I felt that way, that I would see what it was like tomorrow, and I just had to wait till tomorrow. And if I could get to tomorrow, then I would see what it was like the next day. And I'm not sure what really helped. If anything helped, I think it's just time is really all that's helped. I took medication and my physical symptoms of depression improved. I started to eat again. I started to sleep. There were times when I'd have moments of joy, even hours of joy, and then I'd feel guilty because I think, how can I be feeling happy when my child is gone? How can I, so you had to fight it, and you had to put on a brave face and pretend that, for the sake of the people around you, because people are very uncomfortable in the face of extreme grief. It's a very lonely kind of grief. That's the one thing that I have discovered. I think had he died of cancer, had he died in a car accident, that they would have talked about him. People rarely mention his name to me, which is very it's a difficult kind of a thing. People will say, oh, how are you? You're looking good, but they never say his name. They never talk about him, and I think it's because they're afraid to upset me, or they don't know how to deal with it, or they're not sure. If I'm having a good moment, they don't want it to wreck it for me or whatever. But it feels like he doesn't exist in that way, and that's my biggest fear, is that he'll be forgotten, and I will never forget him. But it feels like, because people don't speak of him to me, and maybe they do speak of him with each other, but because they don't speak of him with me, I worry that he will be forgotten, or he'll only be known as that boy that died by suicide at Acadia. And we have our family decided to host a basketball tournament in the summertime, because it felt like an apt sort of a memorial to him. We needed to do something to deal with our feelings. We needed to be able to be open about why he died, and to protect somebody else from dying in the same way, if we could. So we have a basketball tournament in the summer. We have 8 men's teams, 8 women's teams that come from across the country. Very high level basketball tournament. The idea came up around our table in the days following Alex's death in April, and we had our first tournament that August. The grief of suicide is a lonely kind of grief, and I had done a lot of grief work myself in my work, so I knew a fair bit about grief. But I think the grief of suicide is peculiar in that there's an element of choice, or there's perceived to be an element of choice, and that's the part that I had a hard time with. Why would he do this? Why would he choose to make this decision? And I guess over time, that's when I came to the understanding that he didn't choose to do this. It was the depression that chose this for him. And I think that was sort of a way that I was able to kind of let it settle a little bit and stop screaming at the world, kind of thing.
Right.
There's all kinds of reactions that people have, and I think that on any given day there was a different kind of reaction. Some days it's just absolute profound sadness, and there's just, you can't think about anything else but that. It's just, you just can't believe it. It's like a wave comes over you, and your feet are taken out from under you, that you just can't believe it's true, This little child that you carried and kept safe all those years, how can he possibly be gone, and how can this be true? And as much as it is, you just try and figure out some other way that it's to make it not be true, or it's hard to explain. What helped me, I don't know what helped me really, hanging on. I had a little post-it note stuck beside my bed, and it said, it was a quote that I got somewhere, I don't even remember where it came from, but it said, "Look to the living, love them, and hold on." And I just kept saying that over and over to myself. I had to look to my living children, and I had to hang on, and I just had to breathe the next breath and walk the next step and just keep breathing. And it was as basic and as fundamental as that. And there's days still that I don't do very well, and that I don't have it together. And I guess those days, I will always have those days, because it feels like part of me is missing now. I'm not complete anymore, and I'm patched up in some way that I'm able to kind of, do what I have to do to get through a day, but I'm not myself, I'm not whole, I'm not who I used to be. And I guess that's the thing, is that there's another tomorrow, and there's another corner to turn, and that there's another life that maybe you hadn't even thought was possible. When you're in the midst of this funk, that you're so consumed with these bad things that have been happening to you, and that, maybe had Alex stuck it out, maybe, his tomorrow would have been in a whole different direction that he never thought of, and he lost the opportunity to go down that path by going where he went. And I'm fortunate in that I have the background to understand what depression is, and even though I can label it, it still gets me. So for people that don't know and don't have the knowledge, and their thinking is so skewed, maybe they don't realize that's depression. They just think this is reality, that they really aren't any good, and they really aren't needed. And when Alex died, there was never a thought that we wouldn't be open about how he died, because and I don't really know why. I guess partly because of I never felt any shame. I never had that sense. I never went for 1 second was I ever ashamed of him, and for 1 second was I ever mad at him. I questioned, and I wanted to talk, and I wanted to find out why and all that kind of thing, but I never felt that emotion. I never felt ashamed of him. And I knew, I went to Acadia, I did my undergrad at Acadia, and I know what it's like on a small campus, that, word travels fast, and I was pretty sure that everybody would know anyway, so what was the point of hiding it? And I wasn't ashamed of him. I said in his obituary that I didn't want him defined by a single dark moment, that I wanted him to be remembered for all the love and life that he brought to our family and to the people that knew him. And that's what I felt it was. I felt it was a single dark moment that made this happen. And it wasn't who he was. It wasn't what he was all about. People don't have to be professionals to be able to make a difference in somebody's life. A moment of kindness, a moment of company, when if you're feeling that somebody's isolating themselves, just go in there and talk to them and have something to eat with them. It's you don't have to know the right thing to say. You just have to be with people. You just have to be with them in their sadness, and in their loneliness and in their isolation. You just have to be with people, and being that can make the difference and can save a person's life.
Absolutely.
It's true. It is a life-threatening thing. It's horribly difficult to live with depression, and now I know firsthand what it's like to live with depression. It's hard to get out of bed in the morning. It's hard to find a reason to get up. It's hard to eat. It's hard to function. It's hard to participate. It's hard to talk to people. It's hard. Everything becomes so hard. Everybody has down times in their life, and people who haven't experienced a depression think that a depression is the same as, when you're kind of blue on Monday morning because you don't want to get up and go to work that day.
Yeah.
It's a very different kind of thing.
Sadness.
Like, you don't have a broken leg, and you don't kind of have a cancer. You have it, and that's all there is to it. Whereas you can kind of have depression, and people use that word. So, I'm so depressed tonight. I'm so, this is such a depressing day, and the weather's so depressing.
Yeah.
People use the word, and they think they understand what it means. But the clinical kind of depression is a whole different animal.
It's physically and mentally.
It absolutely is. And I think that, again, even mental illness, I think that lots of people think mental illness is psychosis and, the serious, lifelong kinds of images that people have of significant mental illness. And the depression and anxiety are things that you should just be able to kind of, get out of yourself, and pull your socks up, and all those kinds of things that people say. Or get busy, get involved in something that'll make it better, and change your attitude. That's right. Get some different friends, or get out of that relationship, or whatever. People sort of have very simplistic kind of solutions for depression and anxiety, and they don't treat it as a serious mental illness with serious consequences and serious outcomes.
Loss of life.
Doesn't get much more serious than that. And I think that having people to love, and having people love you back, and having a reason to carry on, and a reason to keep raising awareness, and have, I wouldn't want any other mother to ever have to feel this pain, and whatever I can do to make that happen is what I'm prepared to do.
Sharing your story has been very amazing.
Well, that's why I need to tell the story, and I need to make sure that at least I've planted a seed maybe in somebody's brain, and that they'll remember that those dark thoughts, that's depression talking, that's not reality. And wait till tomorrow. That's my other thing. Just wait till tomorrow and see what tomorrow brings. And if, talk to somebody. Just don't let this be the answer, because it hurts too much, the people that